If you grew up in New Zealand, Tip Top wasn't just ice cream, it was summer. It was barefoot kids outside the dairy, it was birthday cakes with melting corners. It was jelly tip fingers, Trumpet drips down your wrist, and that familiar red and blue logo that felt permanent. Tip Top wasn't a treat you questioned. It was just there, year after year, freezer after freezer, quietly becoming part of the national muscle memory. For decades, Tip Top felt untouchable. A New Zealand success story that survived recessions, trends, and changing tastes. It felt local, familiar, trustworthy. And because it was always there, most people never stopped to ask a simple question: who actually owned it? And what happens to a food brand once it stops being just about food? Tip Top's story begins back in 1935 when Albert Heyman and Len Milligan opened the very first Tip Top milk bar in Wellington, selling ice cream and shakes to people looking for a simple refreshment in tough times. By July 1936, the Tip Top Ice Cream Company was formally registered, and within a few years it was producing ice cream across the lower North Island and top of the South. Over time, Tip Top became one of the most recognisable brands in the country. Vanilla, chocolate, hokey pokey, popsicles, trumpets, and jelly tips became part of what New Zealand expects ice cream to taste like, not what it could be. For decades, it really did feel local. Production facilities in Auckland, milk sourced from New Zealand dairy, jobs that lasted generations. If you worked at Tip Top, it wasn't a gig, it was a career. And for consumers, there was a quiet trust. This was our ice cream, made here by people like us. That trust mattered, because ice cream isn't just sugar and milk. It's nostalgia, it's emotion. Once a brand owns that space, it can survive almost anything, as long as people don't feel like it's been taken away from them. The first major shift came in 2001 when Tip Top was purchased by New Zealand's dairy cooperative Fonterra after it bought Peters and Brown's Foods. Fonterra already had Tip Top in its portfolio, and it seemed like a good fit. Fresh New Zealand milk feeding the country's favourite frozen treat in a nation built on grass-fed dairy. For many consumers, things on the surface seemed unchanged. Packaging remained familiar, favourites stayed on shelves, and the ice cream still tasted like the summer of their youth. Then, by the 2000s and 10s, the global food economy began squeezing every corner of the dairy business. International competition, tightening margins, and Fonterra's own strategic pressures made the cooperative rethink its priorities. Ice cream was beloved, yes, but it wasn't core to Fonterra's mission of dairy nutrition products and global markets. And when companies start deciding what matters most, nostalgia often loses. In 2019, Fonterra sold Tip Top to Froneri, a UK-based ice cream specialist owned by Nestlé and private equity firm PAI Partners, for 380 million New Zealand dollars. The deal was described as a way to secure Tip Top's future with a company that is one of the largest ice cream manufacturers in the world. Froneri agreed to keep using New Zealand milk and to maintain operations, including the Auckland factory in Mount Wellington. For many people, that sounded reassuring. Tip Top in New Zealand's hands, still. Kind of. But the ownership shift marked a profound structural change. Tip Top was no longer governed by a Kiwi dairy cooperative, but by a global ice cream conglomerate balancing dozens of brands and international priorities. And this is where people start saying, it doesn't taste like it used to. No press release ever proclaimed, we're changing the recipe. But over time, ingredient lists quietly shifted, stabilizers were adjusted, formulations evolved to meet broader supply chain and cost targets, and some products were reformulated. Tip Top's official site emphasizes that it uses fresh New Zealand cream and naturally sourced colors and flavors. But consumers don't always read labels. They notice feel, texture, intensity, familiarity. And when that feels a bit different, a quiet unease sets in. Then there's the matter of public outcry. In October 2022, Tip Top discontinued a couple of beloved flavors, including cookies and cream, and the reaction was loud enough to make headlines. New Zealanders took to social media to vent frustration, disappointment, even disbelief that a classic could be taken off shelves shortly after being recognised with an award. That wasn't a food safety recall, it was nostalgia clashing with modern product strategy. For many people, it wasn't just about flavour, It was the feeling of losing something familiar. And then there are the conversations that happen in the ever-present social media comment section at 2 a.m. People complaining that gumdrops and goody goody gumdrops ice cream got smaller. Others saying mini choc chips feel less punchy than they used to. Some griping about higher prices for smaller tubs. None of this is officially sanctioned by a company press release, but it is a form of cultural feedback. Tens of thousands of consumers saying something feels different. Online threads make it clear. Skepticism about quality changes didn't start with a few voices, it bubbled into a chorus over time. Then there's the matter of production. There was no single moment where Tip Top changed. No dramatic recipe switch. What happened was gradual. Ingredients, processing, and standards shifted over time to suit modern production, shelf life, and scale. All compliant, all labelled. But memory doesn't read fine print, and food tied to childhood never gets judged neutrally. At the same time, Tip Top stopped being run purely for New Zealand. After the sale to Froneri, it became part of a global portfolio. Decisions weren't local first anymore. They were system first. New Zealand mattered, but it wasn't the centre. And when that happens, even logical business moves feel personal. Tip Top didn't disappear. It wasn't ruined. It wasn't abandoned. It was absorbed. Absorbed into a world where consistency beats character and efficiency beats familiarity. The ice cream is still there. The logo is still there. But the relationship changed. So maybe the question isn't whether Tip Top changed. Maybe it's when it stopped belonging to us in the way we remember. What do you think? Has Tip Top lost something? Or are we just older now? Drop your take in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stick around for more stories about the brands that shaped us.